Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Youth Threads podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about a very important issue about how law enforcement and people in position of power within courts and justice authorities do not take youth seriously and do not listen to youth concerns. And along with that, the issue of the limited youth autonomy within courts and how that negatively impacts youth rights. So we're here with another NYRA volunteer. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Bailey McCoy, and I am a NYRA volunteer, and I will be talking in this podcast with us.
All right. Cool. So I know and if in like a few other episodes you've mentioned that you had some personal experiences with not being taken seriously by law enforcement and not having your concerns be, heard in the way that you feel like it should. So do you want to talk about those situations and what happened?
Yeah, so for example, in one of the other podcasts, specifically the one about bullying in schools and everything, there was a story I had talked about where three individuals that were part of a friend group had been threatening me and harassing me and bullying me and all that kind of stuff. And it was quite the situation and involved a lot of different things that literally could have been counted as criminal. Eventually it continued like over a pattern of months and just got worse and new things kept happening. And in July 2025 I had called the sheriff's office to file a report about this situation and told them that I want action taken, and I told them I have evidence and witnesses, and they literally dismissed all of that as an incident report and proceeded with no investigation, no further action, nothing.
Wow. Yeah, and there's a lot of instances of stuff like that happening to young people where it's just, their concerns really aren't taken as seriously. And it happens for a lot of reasons, but I feel like one of the biggest things is this stereotype around teenagers and around minors that they tend to, like, I guess, exaggerate things, or that they're not always truthful, or that they make stuff up for attention, blah 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 blah. There's a lot of negative stereotypes around young people and stuff like that. And I feel like that kind of leads into this situation, this pattern where young people aren't taken seriously in the way that they should. And also there's this stereotype that it's like young people don't know what they're talking about. It's like, oh yeah, you don't understand this, like you don't understand what's going on, like you don't really understand the situation because like you're young or whatever. So a lot of times if young people are trying to take these steps by themselves, like without a parent present or without an adult present, it makes it to where it is a lot less likely for law enforcement to intervene.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, a lot of the stereotypes claim that youth and young adults don't they don't present things honestly, or they exaggerate things, or they don't tell the full truth. And it's just, that's a very problematic stereotype, because it's in situations like what I had, like dangerous situations are not taken seriously when youth speak up about them, and then there you have things that are being ignored and only are going to become more dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes it especially difficult in situations where young people aren't supported by their parents. So like let's say if someone's dealing with a situation like what you were dealing with, and then maybe like the parents went and tried to like get the report and tried to get something done, it would probably be taken a bit more seriously because like usually they believe adults and they believe older people and they believe parents over just a young person. But if it's just like a 16-year-old, 17-year-old coming in there and making some type of report, I guess like what we just saw with what happened in your situation, they just weren't really taking it seriously, which does kind of create a big problem in those situations where it's like if a young person doesn't have supportive parents, or if a young person's parents don't care about the situation they're in, or especially if the young person's parents are the cause of the situation that they're currently in, that they need like law enforcement assistance in that.
Yeah, and like for me, even though I was 17 when like the threats were delivered and everything, the pattern continued on over a course of months up until beyond the time that I turned 18, even beyond the time that I graduated high school. And so by the time I filed the report in July 2025, I was actually already 18, and they still didn't take me seriously simply because I'm a young adult.
Mhm. And that, that tends to happen a lot. And something else interesting that I want to bring up in that regard is like protective orders and orders of protection is like, something you can try to get those against, like, let's say it's like a person that's like, is harassing you or like maybe was violent against you in the past. You can try to just apply for those in a civil process, not a criminal process, like restraint to get like a restraining order or a protective order, make it where people can't be near you. But something that I find very interesting with that is in most states, minors cannot petition to get protective orders on their own. Like they need an adult with them, which makes it very difficult or very challenging for a young person if they're in a situation where, like, the adults are actually the source of the problem. Like, because like we've talked about in other podcasts, like, Child Protective Services a lot of times won't also listen to young people's concerns and, won't take them seriously, and they'll a lot of times fail to intervene when they should be intervening. So if, let's say a young person has already tried to make a report about something to Child Protective Services, and maybe something in their home, there was no intervention there, then if they try to go with like a civil protection order route, they can't even get that without another adult trying to get them through that process. So let's say like there's like maybe like a family friend or like another family member, like an uncle, like a grandparent that comes to live in the home temporarily, and let's say that person is dangerous towards the minor or dangerous towards the teenager. They can't just try to get like an order of protection against them. They have to rely on the adult. But if the parents are like, no, this person's fine, this person's cool, just completely ignoring any of the ways that they could be causing problems. Let's say maybe they're like predatory, or they could be like potentially violent, they could be like alcoholic, toxic, in any way that would make it to where the young person isn't safe around them or could be causing a safety concern. The young person can't just file for an order of protection or like a protective order on their own. They need like a parent or like an adult with them. So if the parent isn't like conducive to that and they don't care, it makes it to where the young person literally has no way of getting that unless they go through a CPS process to try to get like more intervention. But a lot of the times, that they won't even intervene, or they'll just nothing will actually occur from that. So it just a lot of times the lack of youth autonomy in the courts makes it to where young people end up in more dangerous situations.
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, the youth have difficulty even getting protective orders, and it can create a lot of issues. And another thing that made me lean way against getting a restraining order or whatever against the individual was because when you get a restraining order, most of the time you have to write your address on the paperwork, and they will be able to see your address when they are served with the paperwork, and
Oh,
that's just dangerous.
that is interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that that was a
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, and
Wow.
that's what kept me from proceeding with a restraining order because I knew that if I filed one, she would be seeing my address in that paperwork.
That doesn't seem to make sense. I mean, I guess a lot of the times when people are filing for restraining orders, a lot of the times it's someone who already knows where they live and they're trying to prevent them from going to where they live. But, in your situation, that wasn't the case. So it's like, I feel like they obviously should have had some type of protection in there to prevent that from happening.
And when I found that out, what I also found out when I was researching is that a big reason why they do that is because it's all that due process rights and stuff like that.
So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of circumstances where like this lack of like youth ability to do things in the courts and where the court systems themselves really don't make sense for these certain things. Like I feel like getting a protective order or getting a restraining order is such like a basic thing that I feel like everybody should have access to where it's like it's ridiculous to make it to where a young person needs to have like an adult with them, because like in most circumstances, I mean, hopefully in most circumstances, like the parent would be supportive of them and they'll be like, yeah, no, we're gonna help you go through this, we're gonna help you get this, like because that's what should in theory be happening. But as we've talked about in so many other episodes, there's just a lot of parents who just genuinely don't have the best interests of their children at heart. So they also may not take the concern seriously. Like,
Yeah.
again, with what I was talking about, like, another family member in the house, like, let's say, like, an uncle comes to live with them for, like, a few months. Uncle does something, like, maybe predatory towards the young person in private to where no one else knows about it, and they go to their parents like, "Hey, this happened, I don't feel safe," and the parents are like, "Psh, they wouldn't do that. I've known this person since I was little kid, like, they wouldn't do that. Come on, why are you, like, saying that type of stuff?" And it's like, obviously, they should believe their kid saying something like that, but, a lot of times they don't. Um So then they wouldn't even be able to get their own restraining order without their parents, doing something about that. So that's also a big concern of mine. But yeah, there's like other types of rights too that I feel like young people really don't have access to. And like for first of all, like property rights is another one for me about like how young people don't really have access. They don't really have like a right to their own property. So it's like if they buy something with their own money, their parents can like take it from them, they can steal it from them, and the young person can't like get it back. They don't have like a legal process of getting it back on their own. Um, and then same thing with, like, if the parents, like, take money out of, like, a kid's, like, bank account, like a teen account, since the parent technically has access to the teen account, they can't really get that back either. So there's a lot of, like, certain rights that, like, young people don't have access to. Even if they, like, own their own property, they buy their own property, they should be the legal owners of their own property, they don't have a right to that property, which is such, like, a weird thing that doesn't even make sense to me why that's the case, but it enforces this idea that, like, again, young people don't like have any control over their lives or their belongings, and instead the full control should be given to parents, which is just not really this idea that should be being enforced by our legal system.
Yeah, and like you said, like a minor could purchase something with their own finances, and their parent has every legal right to take that from them. Like, even like with a car, their parent can take those keys when
Hmm.
the minor owns the car. Like, the parent could literally just take their keys.
Yeah, and that's just so wrong. It's like it really is just this bad idea, and a lot, and also what goes into that about how they don't have like a legal way to get it back is another legal right that minors don't have is they don't have the ability to sue, to, like, make lawsuits in their own name. They can't, like if someone steals something from them, they can't, like, make a claim and, like, try to sue and, like, get a lawsuit and get it back. They can't sue in their own name. They, again, need an adult with them to do the lawsuit on their behalf, which if the adults that should be protecting them, like their parents, are the ones that, would normally be doing that, if they're the source of the problem, like they're the ones taking the property, or they're the ones doing something that would cause need the lawsuit in the first place, the minor then has to try to rely on another adult, and a lot of times that's not always the case, and a lot of the times they'll side with parental authority over the minor, just because, again, going back to that same thing of number one, the presumption of parental authority, like in the automatic bias that legal systems have towards that, and then number two, the fact that young people aren't even taken seriously in the first place. Like a young person can't just sue and be like, oh, my parent took my phone. They'll be like, oh, that's just discipline. But it's like, okay, but what if you bought the phone? What if it was like a $900 phone that you bought with your own money that you saved up from years of working, and then you get it taken from you? Like, that's not right. A lot of people will be like, "Oh yeah, but that's the parents' right, just disciplining their kid." But it's like, no, that's not discipline. That's theft. Like, it'd be one thing if the parent got the phone for the kid, but it's another thing if like you bought it with your own money and it gets stolen from you. Like, that's not discipline. That's literally the definition of what theft is. So, and not being able to do lawsuits on their own, and also not being able to get legal counsel on their own. Like a minor can't just hire a lawyer. So again, all of these things kind of go in on each other of making it to where young people are just so limited by these court systems.
Yeah, they really are. And, the court system really does not give them any voice. And it's really crazy because it all falls under the same thing where it's like youth and young adults and stuff like that, they're treated like property and not like human beings with individual rights.
Hmm. And I want to touch on that point about legal counsel a little bit more, because a lot of the times when young people can't get their own legal counsel, if there's like a court proceeding that involves them, like maybe like a custody case or something, they'll get like court appointed legal counsel, which is either a guardian ad litem or like an amicus attorney. And technically, those are supposed to be like the attorney for the child to represent the child's best interest. But again, it's not the child being able to advocate for themselves. Like one of the biggest concerns is minors can't just, a lot of times they can't just go and testify in court, like in a custody battle or something. Like I was in a custody battle that involved me as the subject of the case. I was not allowed to go and testify and like talk about which parent was being the problem, which parent I would rather go to stay with. I had to rely on this amicus attorney, which was the quote unquote eyes and ears of the court. Not, it was supposed to be like neutral and supposed to represent more of my interests rather than like the interest of one party. So But the problem is if those people don't take your concern seriously, it doesn't matter. Like, literally, this dude, this amicus attorney that I had, first of all, he was also dealing with an issue where his kid didn't want to see him. So obviously he's biased against the young people in the matter, which is just number one. And then number two, he like rolled up to the house like smelling like smoke and alcohol, number two, apparently. And apparently there'd been other concerns that he would just be like high in court. Just gonna throw that out there just because like showing how these people are just like ridiculous. And then number three, would not listen to me, would not take me seriously at all. I literally was like, oh yeah, well my dad literally went and assaulted me outside of my house. And he was like, "Oh, yeah, but what did you do to cause that to happen?" It's like blaming me for what happened to me. So that's the thing. That's the guy supposed to be the quote unquote, eyes and ears of the court representing my interests or like trying to be this more neutral party, but won't actually listen to me when I can't even get up and testify. I can't even testify and say, "Oh, yeah, this happened." Like, you have to rely on these people, but if these people don't take the concerns of the minor seriously, then they really have no eyes and ears. And then there's like, and then guardian ad litems are supposed to be more represented towards or more geared towards representing the minor's best interest. I never had a guardian ad litem, but again, the problem with that is it's basically saying you aren't allowed to represent your best interest. You need someone else to represent your best interest, which would make sense if it's like a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old in the case. But if it's like a 15-year-old, obviously they know what their best interests are. They don't need another person to go tell the court what the best interests are. All that is limiting the actual best interest of the minor, because instead of going from them to the court, it goes from them through this like third party that can like jumble it up and create any biases and then to the court, which is such a weird thing that I don't even know why that exists. But it's a big problem that young people face, especially when they're not taken seriously.
It is. And I remember, like, since I was in foster care, I had a court appointed attorney myself. Like, the court appointed me an attorney while I was in foster care. And the crazy thing is that, like, I feel like that attorney wasn't even there to defend me. He was there to say whatever the court might have wanted to hear or whatever the court prefers. And for example, like, um when I was still a minor and like having a lot of issues with foster parents who were not treating me properly and whatnot, I felt like he never effectively advocated for me, which is why so many things went wrong and why my rights were violated so many times, because he wasn't there to advocate for me. He was there to do what the court would most likely prefer.
And that's such a big problem, is that they try to go with what's easier. They try to go with what is like causing less conflict compared to like what is actually in the best interest of the minor, and especially in proceedings that involve them. Like custody battles, it should be in the best interest of the child every time. Foster care, literally you are the subject of what is happening. It should be in your best interest. That is all it should be. It shouldn't be like thinking about what's easier. Like they should be representing you, and then again, but like we're saying, consistently the rights of young people are violated in a way where they aren't taken seriously in the proceedings that directly affect their lives. And it's such a big issue with like these type of court proceedings, where and also by law enforcement as well, where it's like they try to act like they know better, like they know better than the young person does. They're like, "Oh yeah, it's your life," but it's like, "I'm older, I have experience, I know what's best for you better than you know what's best for yourself." But they don't, because it's not their life. Like they have such a limited view of what is going on compared to the actual human being who is living in that experience. And it's like they need like an ego check. I mean, I don't know, the amicus attorney that I had, he needed an ego check because like he acted like he knew everything. And it's like, dude, I've talked to you like 2 times, and the one time I actually reach out to you because I need help, you like shut me down. It's like, and you act like you know better than me. It's like you don't know. And then like and then when he went to the court to like give his like opinion or whatever, he was like, "Oh, I tried to get through to the kid, but he just wouldn't listen to me." It was like, dude, you wouldn't listen to me. Like I'm not supposed to be listening to you. You're supposed to be listening to me. That's your job. That's literally why you were appointed. And then you're acting like you are like the arbiter. It's weird. It's like these people. It's like they a lot of times don't really actually do their job properly of what they need to do. And that's kind of where a big issue comes from, because of the fact that minors are forced to rely on them, and if they don't do their job properly, then, like, what do you do with that?
Yeah, literally. And like, I remember in mid April, since as I've mentioned previously, like, since I was in foster care as a minor and turned 18 in foster care, I'm in the voluntary program extended foster care as a non minor dependent and everything. So I still have the attorney. And when I was having issues with the attorney and he just would not advocate for me effectively and properly, I remember in mid April I actually had a hearing because in early March I filed a JV 180. That's the form where I request like a specific decision of the court to be changed. And in that case, I requested a different attorney. And when I had that hearing in mid April, I gave the judge my reasoning. I gave the judge examples of how my attorney had been violating my rights and not protecting my rights and not representing my desires and wishes. And the judge literally ruled against me and denied my request for a different attorney. But then here's the even crazier part. After all that, I had received the JV 184 in the mail, which is basically the judge's decision. And the judge checked the box denied, and right below it says reasoning with lines, and she left those reasoning lines blank. She just clicked deny, but did not write the reasoning.
What? That's ridiculous. It's like you go up there and you explain what the issue is, and they deny and they don't even like give you a reason as to why. It's like at that point, it's like what are you even supposed to do at that point? Because these people are in this position of authority where they are supposed to be like protecting you, but if they don't even listen and they don't even tell you why, like they don't even tell you what it is that like you weren't able to prove it enough, like they didn't even explain. That's ridiculous. Yeah, and that
Well, and the thing is that when they gave me that JV 184 in the mail, it's not just ridiculous and outrageous. It's literally legal error. Like the judge is required to provide reasoning in their decisions. That's a legal obligation they have in the documentation and everything. And
mhm.
technically, that's appeal worthy material.
Wow. Yeah, that's it's ridiculous. Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
that and that's what I'm saying. It's like these people don't even know how to do their jobs. It's like they're supposed to be the ones like protecting young people, but it's if like they don't even know what they're doing. Like
No, they don't. They have no clue what they're doing because they're in it for the money.
and it's like the thing is, it's like there's always this stereotype that's like, oh yeah, young people don't know what they're talking about. Like they're not competent enough, they're not mature enough. But it's like in both of our instances, we were more mature than the people that are in power in the legal system who should be doing their jobs but aren't doing their jobs. And it's like all we want is for you to do your jobs, but it's like you're acting like we don't know what we want. It's like you're acting like we're not mature enough when it's like we're being more mature than either of y'all. Like y'all are it's weird. Like it's such a weird thing where it's like young people are treated so far down, but then when like but then the actual people of authority, they don't even do their jobs, but it's like they just like get a free pass. They just like get away with it. Like it's ridiculous in a lot of circumstances. So yeah.
What's also crazy to me is that it's like overall I feel like the system we have in society, not even just with youth in particular, but like almost all average citizens and individuals nowadays, the system is becoming like so policy first, human last, and like
Mhm.
no human's real needs and rights are being looked at because the system has become so rigid in looking at cost and liability and stuff like that over the actual human that we are talking about here. And it's crazy because there's so many instances where policy and liability and cost and convenience are all prioritized over the individual themselves.
Yeah, that's definitely a thing that especially applies to young people because like these weird restrictions that are put upon them. Another thing that I want to mention for like a youth restriction that kind of goes into what you were saying is like minors don't have the right to waive their own privacy rights, which basically like, if you're trying to go on like the media or like you want to go on the news or like you're getting interviewed by someone to get published, it's like you have to sign a waiver that basically says, yes, I'm allowing you to publish me. Like I'm waiving my privacy, basically. That's what that means. Um, and if an adult does it, it's simple. It's like you just sign it and then it's like, yeah, no, I'm allowing you to do this. But what's such a weird thing is that minors don't have the right to waive their own privacy. So let's say like a minor gets they can't even get interviewed by the news without their parents signing the waiver and saying, yeah, it's okay for you to publish them, which is like again, there's with so many of these things, it's like, okay, yeah, it makes sense if it's like a 5-year-old, but if it's like a 15-year-old, it's like, why should they need their parents' permission to like be published somewhere? It's like that doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Especially, again, I bring this up because it's so important, especially in instances where it directly conflicts with the parents. Like, let's say serious, if it's like a serious concern or like a serious issue. For example, like a kid can't even like a minor can't even go to like a nonprofit organization or like an advocacy organization, something like us, and like get like their face published by us talking about like let's say the issue is with their parents. Let's say they want to tell a story about how their parents were mistreating them. Like obviously the organization isn't going to reach out to the parents and be like, "Hey, can we have your permission to publish the kid talking about a story where you're being a bad parent?" Like obviously they're not going to do that. They're going to say no. So it's like you're relying on you have to rely on the parents for the issues of the young person to like publish something about the young person talking about where their parents violated their rights. So it's like it's a cycle. It's a cycle where people don't really have rights over what's happening with them because they give parents so much control over the rights of what a young person is allowed to do and not do. And it's just like ridiculous.
It's very ridiculous because it's like you're giving the parent you're putting the parent in the position where they're the ones who get to decide, and it's literally an issue where their power would be reduced, and so obviously they're going to say no to that.
Mhm. It's like they can't even it's like young people can't even like they can't do like interviews, advocacy, campaigns, documentaries, like even like creative projects without a parent like signing off on it. And it's like it's technically not illegal like if like they published it without the parents' consent, but it opens them up to a civil lawsuit. And a lot of the times if a parent can just get a, like do a cease and desist about that type of stuff, and then you have to take it down a risk like a civil liability lawsuit, which I think that's a violation of the First Amendment. Like, if I feel like publishing, especially if the person, the individual is consenting to it, I don't really feel like it should also go through this parental thing. But it can also work in the opposite direction of parents can waive the privacy rights of a minor even when the minor doesn't want their privacy rights waived. So it's like a parent can publish personal identifying information about a minor online or like to whoever, even if the minor doesn't want that information published. So it's like minors don't have the rights to like advocate for themselves and get themselves published, and they also don't have the rights to protect their own privacy from their parents being the ones to publish it. And it basically like the minors may not even be asked, like they could have stuff published about them by the parents consenting, and they don't really even have a choice in the matter. And that's what I'm saying is like if you take the rights of another human being and put these rights in the hands of a separate human being, it like there's such an issue there because if there's conflict and you always default to one, it completely leaves out what the other person is actually wanting. And then it's like again, what compounds on that is a young person can't like start a lawsuit about that or anything because again, young people don't have the ability to sue in their own name. Like and they can't hire legal counsel on their own either. So and like that is such a big issue there is they can't even do that like even if it's directly about them. And that's what empowers these systems to continue to be in place is the fact that lack so many legal rights that even makes it to where they can't even fight against it.
Yeah, no, literally. And it really does create, like you said, a whole cycle. And ultimately, the minor or the young adult ends up facing a lot of issues. They have their rights completely violated, and they have all kinds of situations where they and their voice are not even counted in any matters. And it's crazy and it's not right.
Mhm, and, back to that ability to sue thing, it's like, what creates, like, these civil rights cases is lawsuits. Like, every single change for civil rights has happened from, like, these lawsuits happening. Like, Brown versus the Board of Education, like, that was a big case where, like, segregation in schools got overturned, which was, like, the big landmark thing to making it to where segregation was moved. That just started from, like, from a lawsuit. And that's like suing and creating lawsuits is how civil change to create civil rights is made. But, like, what if, like, people didn't even have the ability to do that? Like, if like, that's the thing, young people don't even have the ability to create lawsuits in their own name, they have to rely on adults to do that. So, if the adults aren't, also in favor of the minor in the way that, the rights are being violated, then they literally have no way to even create the change to remove themselves from the situation where they have no legal autonomy. And that is again compounds in these issues is it's not just saying, "Oh yeah, you don't have rights to do these certain things." You don't even have the rights to fight against the fact that you don't have rights. That is probably like the biggest thing is they don't have the rights to fight against the way that they don't have rights. Like they have to they're so reliant on these legal systems that don't take them seriously and don't value what they have to say and won't listen to them and don't even give them the opportunity. They don't even get the chance to even make the case. And that's the biggest concern there.
It is because what ultimately happens is it comes down to one very unfortunate fact, and that is in the system we have nowadays, no youth or minor has any voice in the system and the world we live in nowadays. They don't have a voice.
Mhm. For sure, and, there's also, like, other rights that they don't have, like, right to public proceedings, like, juvenile proceedings are always so closed off from the public because of the fact that it involves minors, and, like, courts put such this high emphasis on, like, protecting the privacy of the minors, even if the minor wants their thing to be more public, like, let's say they wanna, like, talk about it with the news and with the media, if their parents say no, then they can't even do that, but they can't even make the case more public if they want to because the fact that they are not in control of their own privacy, which is such like a weird thing. Because a lot of the times these cases involving young people do have the potential to be something big to like say something about the system, to be like, oh yeah, my rights are being violated in this situation because I'm young. But it's like you can't even make it a more public proceeding or like even talk to the media without parents' approval to even talk about how your rights are being violated because you're being young. It's like it's like a feedback loop of discrimination and lack of autonomy that just all compounds on each other.
Yeah, and it really is. And it's just very unfortunate, like I said, because it ultimately results in no youth having a voice. And obviously, that's going to create a thing where whatever happens in this world is going to ultimately benefit the ones in power and harm the ones with no power. And it's just very, very wrong. And in all honesty, it's also very dehumanizing.
Mhm. Of course. Going along with the rights of public proceedings and stuff like that is young people aren't allowed in most states, they're not even minors aren't allowed to have a trial by jury because of that same reason. It's like, "Oh yeah, we're trying to keep your privacy intact, keeping your situation away from the public eye, so we're not even going to give you the right to a trial by jury." And they justify even though a jury trial is a constitutional right in the Constitution, they justify it by being like, "Oh yeah, well juvenile proceedings, even if it's criminal, it's actually a civil proceeding because you're a minor and it's not a criminal case. And the only way you can have a jury trial is if you get moved up into adult court if you're a minor, and then you can have a jury trial. But, that just it doesn't make sense. So it's like and jury trials are so important because it makes it to where your situation is decided by, like, average people, by, like, regular people instead of, like, one person who's in power who may not, like, have your best interest at heart or may not take your situation seriously. But, like, with, like, a jury, it's more regular people. But along with that, minors can even serve on a jury either, so it wouldn't even be a jury of their peers which is like another thing, which I feel like minors should be able to serve on a trial by jury, like, if they want to. Like, um, I mean, maybe it shouldn't be like, because with adults, it's like sometimes it just gets mailed to their house and they don't really have a choice. It's like, "Oh, yeah, show up, you have jury duty." But, like, with minors, they should be able to do it if, like, they want to. Like, I know a lot of people that are, like, actually interested in politics and interested in civics who, like, would want that experience of serving on a jury trial, and just, feeling like you have that ability to be that peer in someone else's case, to be like, okay, yeah, I am like part of this for like to help someone else, because it's like you're being there as like a peer for a minor. Because like if it's a minor getting a trial by jury by just adults, or if they don't get a trial by jury in general, which is 99% of the time, if it's just a judge, then that is not like someone who actually understands them, and may, again, because of these stereotypes, look down on them, and think they're worse, or think they're a problem, or think that they shouldn't have this like autonomy over their own situation. And it really just, again, creates this cycle where it's like, because of the fact that minors don't have this legal ability, they also get discriminated against in this way in the legal system.
Yeah, and like you said, a jury trial is a constitutional right. But the system takes that away from minors and justifies it with the excuse of privacy. And yet the reality is that I can guarantee you, as you said, that almost every minor in a juvenile court situation would want a jury of their own peer there to ultimately say the decision, just like you would do in adult court with adult juries. Like,
And then it kind of just goes back to that thing of like, constitutional rights should not be based on age. Like, minors are the only group that it's acceptable to just deny them constitutional rights because of like a demographic. Like, imagine you try to do that to like any other group. Like, that wouldn't be acceptable. But somehow with young people, it's like, oh yeah, we can take away this constitutional right from them and just do some weird justification, and it's okay. And the reason why they get away with it is, again, because minors can't like create civil lawsuits. They can't like sue on behalf of their rights. I mean, there were court cases. There actually was a Supreme Court case where about minors being able to have jury trials, and the courts even ruled against them and said like, no, these are civil proceedings, so you don't get to have a jury trial guaranteed. And some states grant it, some states don't. I mean, Texas is one of the states that actually does grant jury trials to minors if they request it. And that's the thing, an adult, adult can request a judge trial too and not even have a jury trial. Just so it's like, that should be a right that all minors should be able to have. They should be able to choose, either I want a judge deciding my case or I want a jury deciding my case. It shouldn't be like you lose out on one because of like a factor about yourself you can't control, like your age. Like, that doesn't really make sense. And it just, is like discrimination even with constitutional rights.
yeah, and it's crazy because what I also would like to mention is that, like, if an adult were to be denied their right to a jury, or if they were to be told any such thing like what minors are told, oh my god, the chaos that would come about from that.
Mhm. Exactly. And it's like, there's such like this double standard. It's just a very, very ridiculous double standard when it comes to like minors' ability in court, and the way that they're not taken seriously, and it just, all these things kind of like compound on each other. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's pretty much like the big like list of legal rights and everything. Is there anything else you wanted to bring up for this, like about the topic?
Nope, I think we got it covered.
All right. Well, thank y'all for tuning into the episode. And if anyone has a story of, how lack of autonomy in the courts has negatively impacted their lives as well, feel free to share with us, and maybe you could appear in the podcast next episode. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.
Yes, bye.